Michael, we have loved Kayvon Thibodeau from the moment he said hello. He had us at hello back at the Super Bowl.
Love that guy.
And some team will be saying hello to him very soon tonight. This idea that he's sliding has probably been overblown. Charles Robinson, franchise cornerstone here, brother from another. Let's start you off with this, Chuck. By the way, hi, dude. We wish you were here. You know what the draft means to me. I know what it means to you, bruh. You gotta come with. You gotta come out here. So it's just the energy is off the chain.
Gotta come with. Come on. Come with.
The buzz is crazy. Speaking of buzz, what's the latest thing to come into your phone that you can share?
I got asked if there are any quarterbacks going in the top 10 by someone who is potentially trying to get into the top 10. So I would just pay close attention to the dual pick teams that are outside of the top 10. There's a few that are thinking about maybe moving up for an edge rusher. So I think it's for an edge rusher. I guess I can't say that for sure.
So wait a minute. So they're asking if any quarterbacks are going in the top 10 because they want the edge rusher to slide.
They're
right?
asking for a friend.
They're not asking because
they're trying to figure out. Well, first off, everyone's trying to figure out what exactly Carolina is going to do at 6, and then Seattle at 9, because 9 is really kind of viewed as a trade back position, right? I mean, John Schneider has a history of moving back in drafts, and so I think they're trying to figure out, is Seattle sticking at 9, thinking, Malik Willis or one of the quarterbacks at 9. And if that's ultimately not going to happen, so basically it's like, hey, are they eyeing Malik Willis at 9, but Carolina takes them at 6? Carolina takes them at 6. Maybe Seattle wants to move back. If Seattle doesn't want a quarterback at all, maybe Seattle moves back. So that's part of what's sort of playing into this right now.
See that question, do any quarterbacks go in the top 10? I think that's the one, because I was thinking about this, Charles. First of all, I was told if Hutchinson goes 1 to Jacksonville, Detroit's going to think about Malik Willis, and you can confirm or deny that in a moment, but just follow my line of thinking here. So I look at Carolina at 6 with Matt Rule. No matter what David Tepper says, Matt Rule got to win, all right? And if they're going to go into this thing with Sam Darnold, or who knows whether they get Mayfield or Garoppolo or whatever, but it's like they got to address quarterback. Arthur Smith is new in Atlanta, but you ain't trying to go out there in Atlanta with Marcus Mariota selling that dream, and you got a local kid in Malik Willis that could be a potential star. And then there's Seattle. No matter how comfortable they may be, you're really rolling out there with Drew Lock and Geno Smith. I say that to say, I'll quote Dutch Schultz from one of my favorite movies, Hoodlum. We live in inflationary freaking times, okay? And the idea that these quarterbacks, no matter how down people may be on this quarterback class, and no matter how much they may love 2023, bro, people chase quarterbacks. People reach for quarterbacks. So don't you see a run on quarterbacks happening just because of the nature of the position and the supply and demand?
I think in a normal year I would say yes, but I just haven't found a lot of teams out there that are really inclined to buy into this class, and there's a total disagreement on who the best quarterback is, who's game right. Like Malik Willis, there are teams that like Malik Willis. I talked to one general manager who, when he was looking at Malik Willis, and considering whether or not they would draft him, I was like, you got a quarterback on your roster right now, that would create a pretty big problem. He was like, that's how much I like Malik Willis. Maybe we just take him anyway and try to figure it out. But then there's a moderately needy NFC, quarterback needy team in the NFC was like, no, he's not even a first rounder. He's not a first round quarterback. People feel the same way about Kenny Pickett. People feel the same way about Desmond Ridder. I think for there to be a run, you actually have to have a number of teams that buy into the class as a whole. Yeah. And I don't think that's the case. And I think part of the reason why this draft is so cloudy and it's so chaotic and there's so much disarray is that there's a linchpin of creating order is typically understanding what's going to happen with quarterbacks. That's not here. That's part of the problem in this draft.
Well, and then I'll somewhat contradict myself, Michael.
Of course.
When I just said, what do you mean? Of course, I don't always contradict myself.
I'd say always, but
Okay. Well, no, I'm seeing the whole picture. And if you do need to win now, if these quarterbacks aren't ready to not only play now but help you win now, then you're drafting them for the next regime anyway. So they don't, because if you draft one of these kids, they got to play right away.
Well, and Michael, and there are two quarterbacks that are play right away quarterbacks that are available. Jimmy Garoppolo's available. Baker Mayfield's available.
Yep.
So that also throws a wrench into win now teams. Carolina's going to win now.
Do either of them get dealt
Baker
tonight?
Mayfield I don't think Garoppolo, because look, teams aren't sure about the medical. Obviously, he has shoulder surgery, and so there's I think there's a piece of medical information that they're waiting for, and San Francisco is slow playing it, saying, hey, we can totally ride with this guy if we have to next season. Mayfield, I think there's a chance Mayfield, but I think Mayfield is going to get dealt based on what happens in this draft, and I think actually in this first round. I think if Carolina does not take a quarterback at 6, I don't see any way that they're not trading for Baker Mayfield.
I'm just thinking about it. I actually have a question for both of you guys.
Okay.
This is a rare opportunity to kind of educate the public, because I think everybody is looking at this draft now. We've talked about the uncertainty. We don't know what Jacksonville is going to do. And people are down on the quarterbacks, but maybe something happens tonight where 2 or 3 quarterbacks go in the first round. And if you're a rookie looking at the draft, you say, wow, I thought this was going to happen, but the opposite actually took place on draft day. You both have tons of experience of going through drafts. Is there any kind of draft aha moment that you both have had from covering teams where you thought one thing was going to happen and then you learned through your experience something else takes place? Either, hey, these quarterbacks aren't good, but 4 quarterbacks go. Hey, these cornerbacks aren't good, 4 cornerbacks go. This team is not going to isn't going to trade. They trade anyway.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of got a comeuppance, an education in how the draft business goes. Charles,
you want to take that one?
As Charles, as Michael is sitting here thinking, I don't know. Let me. I
got one in mind, but go ahead, Charles.
Well, I had it last year. I thought right up until the selection was made of Trey Lance, I thought Mac Jones was going to be Kyle Shanahan's pick at 3. I really did. And the way I think I kind of got trapped into that was when you talk to people about, Shanahan and quarterbacks and this sort of love affair he had with Kirk Cousins, feeling like, what he created with Kirk Cousins, that he was looking for that kind of a quarterback. And what I dismissed was looking at the entire template, all the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan had worked with, all the quarterbacks that he had success with, which weren't just strictly the Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins types. Okay. And so to me, I think sometimes, right. Right. Look at his dad as well. And I think sometimes you get trapped into with teams, just what their template is from a coaching standpoint or what a general manager standpoint is. You always feel locked into, well, this guy only does this and he never does that. Another good example, Brian Gutekunst came up under Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson was not like an aggressive draft guy. He kind of was like, all right, I'm going to either trade back or just sit and wait and draft where I am. Brian Gutekunst, I thought, okay, well, that's the kind of general manager I can expect. No, it's the opposite. Like, he's actually a far more aggressive mover in the draft than Ted Thompson was. So you just can't get locked into history with the draft, because the league changes and that changes the people who make the selections.
I'm going to bring up probably to answer your question, Mike, I'm going to bring up maybe the highlight of my draft career, if you will.
I love this one.
Is the number 1 pick of the 2006 draft, Mario Williams. And I don't bring it up to brag that I got it right, but I bring it up to illustrate that everybody is lying and everybody is being lied to this time of year. And even the most informed among us are being used by teams, by agents. And 2006, everybody said it was Reggie Bush to Houston. And I had it on not only good authority, but the best authority that it was going to be Mario Williams. And I remember being in the midst of that and people telling me how wrong I was, people that I worked with that were much more established at the time than I was, being like, no, it's going to be Reggie Bush. I'm like, nope, it's Mario Williams. And my sources saying, stick to your guns.
Wow.
It's Mario Williams.
Wow.
And so I got that one right. But my point in saying that is, it wasn't that other people didn't know what they were talking about. It's that that's what happens this time of year. So come tomorrow. So just like last year, Charles, a lot of people thought it was Mac Jones at 3. You weren't alone. A lot of people thought it was Mac Jones at 3, only for it to be Trey Lance. So come tomorrow, there's going to be I can't believe we bought this. We fell for the okie doke.
Yeah.
We fell for the banana in the tailpipe moment when it comes to somebody. So I'll even go before we let you go, Charles. Well, I got 2 more for you, but let's go back to number 1. Do you have a sense of what's going to happen at number 1? Because that's where the fun is starting. Number 1 overall.
I think it's Trayvon Walker. I really do. I think like the interesting thing about 1 is that it is a split building, that there are, and I think people need to understand when we say there's a split building on a pick, that's not uncommon. I mean, there are a lot of, you build a consensus sometimes, and you'll have, if you're sitting in a room and they say, hey, everybody, honest opinion, like who do you want, who do you think we should be taking here? There will be someone who says, hey, we need the tackle. There will be someone who says, I like this defensive player versus that defensive player. And so you have, I think there's an offensive line faction in Jacksonville. I think there's a Travon Walker faction. I think there's an Aiden Hutchinson faction. But I truly think that if Trent Baalke's making the pick, the general manager, the traits that he picks, fits best with Travon Walker. So one other thing I think people actually, this is kind of interesting. I don't know that people know this, but now NFL teams are starting to watch betting lines as data points. And if a lot of money, this is great. This is actually really interesting. I had a conversation with someone on a team last night about this, that teams they're watching as the draft approaches, particularly in like the last 24 hours of a draft. If you're looking at the top of a draft and all of a sudden a ton of money moves in and the odds shift heavily with a certain player, they think that's indicative of something leaked out of the organization. Vegas got hold of it, and that's why the odds. Now look at Trayvon Walker's odds. They have shifted dramatically in his favor as being the number 1 pick in the last 24 to 48 hours. Teams are now actually watching that as a data point.
Are they just watching, or are they Calvin Ridley in this thing and getting in on this action?
No, they're. I mean, that's probably the nightmare scenario for the NFL.
Yeah, and listen, they always say players can't do it. They didn't say scouts can't. Right?
Listen, in a draft like this, where it's so chaotic and everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, and even the top pick seems to be in question, teams are looking for anything, any tell they can get to try and figure out what the draft order is going to be in front of them. And I'm telling you, this is one of these scenarios where they've actually paid attention to, wow, Vegas all of a sudden is shifting all this money onto Trayvon Walker. It really looks like this is going to be Trayvon Walker as a data point. They're not saying that's a slam dunk, but they're saying it's another piece of information.
I just love how Charles always comes up with these nuggets that nobody else is thinking about. Hey, we talked to you about the quarterbacks who may get traded. We didn't ask you about the most important player that may get traded, and that's Deebo Samuel. What's the chances that deal goes down tonight or this weekend?
I still think there's a chance it happens.
Be had.
Yeah, I still think there's a chance it happens today because they're still talking. Okay, and what I mean by talking
they is who?
I was going to say, who, where, what?
I would say if it happens, I think it would be the Jets because the Jets have been the team that most consistently has pursued some of these receivers and is interested in Deebo Samuel. But the thing is, the 49ers have to come to grips with they're going to have to trade this guy. Like if they can cross that threshold, then I think it comes down to, how much compensation realistically would they have to have. From my understanding right now, and this is from talking to a couple of different teams, the thought process is it's a lot of compensation, like maybe more than Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill. And if that's the case, I don't know necessarily that a deal gets done. But I'll put it to you this way. As of this morning, it was not a, hey, it's shut off. Everybody's, there's no chance of a phone ringing. 5 minutes before the round kicks off or even on the clock. So I just say, I think there's a chance. Okay, I'm not going to say it's a high percentage chance, but it's not a nobody's talking to each other situation.
Okay. Charles, your information is priceless, man. Always a pleasure talking to you,
Love
especially this time of year. Go back to the phones, brother. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow after what promises to be a wild, wild night.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, guys.
It is. It is. Great stuff, Charles.
Wish you were here, dude. Seriously.
I mean, yeah, that's right.
We'd be hanging out. We'd be painting the town.
We'll have some fun for you.
I appreciate it. Send pictures.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.